Welcome, everybody, to today's Building My Legacy podcast. I have with me today Jon Schram. He is the CEO and owner of the Purple Guys, and I'm dying to find out how you got that name. And he is an IT expert and CEO of his company, and really has some wonderful thoughts and input for us on pandemic related IT issues and some of the things that we should be thinking about. And then also that entrepreneurial journey that many of us are on, and you take a deep breath and you go, okay, some days you feel like you're holding on for the takeoff, and other days you feel like you just had a crash landing.
Yeah.
So with that, Jon, I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit more fully and then talk about your Purple Guys.
Awesome.
Mm.
Well, thanks. And hopefully my audio is okay right now. But just appreciate the opportunity to be here. Give you a brief background on me. I am an unintentional serial entrepreneur. This is my third startup from scratch. This current iteration I've been doing for 20 years, so it is the longest job I've ever held. It's been a lot of fun. I've always been focused in the services industry, so B2B services sales, and have learned a lot along the way from both a branding and marketing perspective. And this last year has been, I guess, interesting is one way to put it, challenging. But I started this particular business in October of 2001. And there's a story behind that. I don't know how far back we want to go, but with my last business, we actually made the decision to leave that company on September 10th.
Oh, wow.
Next day, 9/11. So, starting this business on the heels of that kind of craziness that was going on then, I just sort of roll with whatever is going on, So having started it with that, and then the 08, 09 recession, and then obviously what 2020 was, I think you put it well. It is an entrepreneurial journey, and it often feels like a roller coaster.
It really does. And I want to talk a little bit about that more, because I think right now people looked at that pandemic and they said, okay, we're going to come out of it. And I just got off the phone with somebody else who said, I think this is a steeper roller coaster that we're going into now for a period of time. And so it's that journey of how do you manage that? How do you survive it?
Mhm.
It's more than survival, because we don't want to just survive, right?
Yeah.
And you have figured that out for your own company. So I'm really curious about how does one do that? And then what are some of the IT challenges as well? Because I think there's a fear relative to security right now. So I put a lot out there for you to respond
Yes.
to.
So specific to how do you deal with, I guess, chaos? And I go back to, I focus on the things that I actually have control over. I don't control the government and regulations. I can vote, but day to day, what I do is not going to change government policy. And but day to day, what I do does impact my customers and my communication. So if I kind of start to get distracted with, holy cow, there's another lockdown, there's another change, there's this, that, or the other thing that are happening in these outside things that I can't really control, I'm missing the opportunity to manage what I can control. So throughout 2020, we adapted, and the things we can control, make sure our staff was safe. So that was the first one, and then make sure our clients were connected. And in the IT world, IT mattered even more than it did prior. But just focusing on the pieces that we could actually control, over communicate when there's uncertainty. And I've heard people say it before, and I think I'm finally believing it, having had a year solid of needing to over communicate. But you cannot over communicate when there is uncertainty. You have to keep reiterating, here's what we're doing, here's what we're doing, here's why we're doing it, here's what we're doing, over and over again, both internally to your team so they stay focused, and externally to your customers So they know you're there, they know you care, they know you're plugged in, they know you're still thriving. And to kind of go back to what we do, we're an outsourced IT company, so we only deal with small business. So our typical customer is that 10 employee to 200 employee type of a business, and we're the IT people. So if they've got IT issues, we're who they call. So when the pandemic hit and it was, hey, everybody go home, we've got roughly 6,000 people that we support spread out over about 175 different companies. And pre-March of 2000, probably 10 to 15% of those folks were set up to effectively and efficiently work from home. And in a week and a half, we had to set the rest of them up, which was a literal tidal wave of work for us. But again, communicating through that, letting people know, hey, we are literally dealing with a tidal wave of work. They were patient. We plowed through it. We worked extra hours. There was a ton of success stories on the backside of that in March, which actually allowed us to have a solid second quarter of 2020. We added customers because of the stories that got told about Purple Guys and how we handled really the chaos that ensued, because people talked about us. So I guess back to the, you know, what what helps me personally get through the chaos is bringing it back to what is it that I can do right now, this moment, today? What's the best use of my time that I can have control and influence over that will help keep my team focused as well as communicate with customers?
I think that's so important because it's easy to get lost in all of the noise, and there's so
Yes.
much noise right now, right?
Yeah. And it's not just quiet noise, it's noise with a bullhorn.
Noise with the bullhorn. That's a good way to put it. But staying focused takes us an incredible discipline. You have to be very mindful about it because
Yes.
the distraction is great.
Yes.
So, what have you done to keep yourself really focused and to be able to stay on target with what your goals are?
So, from a personal side, I am a creature of habit. I'm a creature of routine. I am a early riser as well, which my wife is very. I've been married for 26 years. She is slowly coming around to that. That's a good thing, because she is not, and not naturally wired as an early riser. But for me, so it starts with me personally staying in that routine. I get up at 5 o'clock. I work out. I have a prayer and journaling time every morning. So that's that centering, grounding that helps me stay focused and not get distracted by the chaos. And then on the corporate side, about 2 years ago, we started implementing EOS traction, that process. And we'd had some systems in place before to set monthly, quarterly, annual rocks, goals and whatnot. But that process, and the simplicity wrapped around it has really helped the company stay focused. And when something unforeseen occurs, which is what happened at the end of the first quarter, you can go back to that. You can reset your priorities, but it's a dashboard and it keeps everybody on the same page. And we've been able to roll that down, and I'm totally thankful that we had it rolled down pre-pandemic to everybody in the organization. So every single person in our company, and we're not huge, we're a 40-person company, but everybody has a scorecard. So if we reset things at the top, we go all the way through and it kind of resets everybody else's goals. And then throughout the day, we can refer back to that. All right, what's the first and best use of each person's time throughout the day to try to stay focused? And it has been really hard, at certain peaks and valleys throughout 2020 to stay focused. Uh, and so that's those two things: the personal routine for me to help keep me focused and grounded, and then that framework to keep the company focused and grounded on this is what we're here to do. This is how we do it. These are what we're trying to get accomplished today, this week, this month, this quarter.
Processes are everything, aren't they? I mean,
Yeah.
I can't say it enough for my own self as well, but it's also one of the hardest things to do because there's always an exception to everything.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the exception of holy cow, we're normal. I mean, we're fully staffed 8 to 5, Monday to Friday. We do have after hours and evening things that we do, but we had to shift. And anybody that could even help with anything when it was everybody go work from home, it was all hands on deck. So yeah, the normal procedures and process of here's how we support customers and work through tickets. We still used the system, but we threw everything we could at it, and kind of broke some of the rules of who was allowed to touch what, because we just had to. So you do have to adapt and sometimes on the fly. But again, it's back to the communicate that, yeah, this is temporary. Yeah, this is insanity. And our ticket volume and load was 4 times the normal for about a 2 week period,
Wow.
which for a small team, I mean, we were buried. But again, we communicated with our customers. They got it because they were seeing the same kind of thing. They understood the chaos, but that communication with the customer was hugely important because it bought us, and the past relationship of doing a good job bought us patience with them.
Sure.
But it gave us a little more grace in terms of what was going on, and that takes a little bit of the pressure off internally. Like, all right, we don't have to hit our normal response time because it's just not possible with the
Right.
volume of things. But again, you continue to communicate with your customers, and then internally that, all right, normally we'd be measuring it based on this, but we've got other things that we've got to deal with right now. So, just over communicating with the team and the staff throughout that process and with our customers helped get us through it.
So you talk a little bit about the challenges of IT when it's a remote process. What are
Mhm.
some of the biggest challenges your customers have with IT when it is remote?
I'll tell you the biggest challenge is we shifted, because even in normal times pre-pandemic, most of what we do remotely because it's just more efficient. You've got an issue, we've got the tools in place, you're on a computer, we can remotely see it. We're immediately working that issue as opposed to having somebody drive somewhere and sit physically next to someone. So the remote thing was not the issue. The new variable post pandemic is that everybody's got a different remote setup. It used to be most people were inside the four walls of a company, and that's where they worked most of the time. So from our model of support, we knew what their environment looked like, their connection to the outside world, their firewall. We knew their network, if you so to speak. And now, if it was a 50-person company we were supporting, we've now got 50 networks that we support because they all went home.
Yes.
So learning that the different routers and performance, and they've got a Wi-Fi printer at home that they're trying to like. We introduced a ton of new variables, so we had to change our script and we had to change our questions to what is it that you're trying to do? Are you trying just basically to remote back into what was the normal corporate world for you, or are you really trying to operate as an island? And that also brings up all of the security pieces to that, because there's a right and a wrong way to remotely connect into corporate data. And you can throw the doors wide open and kind of let everybody in. But that's not the right way to do it. You really need to have a lot more controls and processes in place. So there was a deal with the tidal wave of work and then kind of come back up and clean up the processes around that. But the specific, what changed with the remote work was that the number of environments that we were supporting just grew exponentially.
Wow. Wow.
It
And
was
I get it because
wow is a good a good way to say it.
I get it because I mean I see that around me. People,
Yeah.
as I talk with people, but I don't have to solve the problem. I just hear it. So
Yes. And
so
they're legitimate issues. I mean, if you're trying to connect and it's frustrating, you can't get connected, and a lot of that is how we can see them as well. So we'll get an actual phone call as opposed to a Zoom type meeting like this, and try to troubleshoot just getting them on the internet.
uh,
So we've learned a lot about the various flavors of home network connectivity that's available, and we knew some of it before, but we had to get really deep into it to be able to support our customers.
it's interesting because I think what most of us haven't really thought through enough is the implications from a security standpoint
Yeah.
of all the remote workers. So how have you managed that for companies, especially your entrepreneurial companies fly by their seat of the pants anyway?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, we've stressed the fact that passwords are important. They were important before; they're important now. And yes, you should still change them on a regular basis. And I get that it's hard to remember them, so we recommend password managers. The other pieces that we make sure people put in place, and we strongly suggest because we don't actually own these networks, but we recommend the best practices. Anything that can have a two-factor authentication, and for people that don't know exactly what that means, it's just you've got a user ID and a password and then another layer of security, and it's typically the iPhone or your cell phone that gets a code that you then type in, but it's that second factor of authentication that keeps things secure. um, Making sure that your connectivity, if you are connecting to resources that were back in your office, that you actually go through a firewall as opposed to directly going into either your desktop or the server, just so that it's a managed and secure connection. The other thing we did, and we offered this pre-pandemic, but it's gotten a lot better adoption, is ongoing security awareness training. So, what does a bad link look like in an email? How can I detect something that might be phishing for credentials? Because your people are both your first and last line of defense. If someone clicks on something that's malicious and they don't realize it, they're now infected. If they've got access to critical assets in the corporate network, those assets are now exposed. So, and nothing's 100%, nothing's completely perfect. So you want to train, you want to empower your team to be as secure as possible, make sure all the right technical pieces are in place. But then you also need to make sure that there's a backup, because that is a good way to recover from an attack. And a lot of these attacks, if you've read about any of them in the news, they'll come in and they will encrypt your data and they'll hold it for ransom. It's called ransomware. uh, and a way around that is, if they've come in and locked up your data, you can restore from backup and not have to worry about it. Now you do want to figure out how they got in and how they, but the recovery, instead of paying the ransom, can just be restoring from backup. And you want to make sure you've got a good backup and it's tested. So we just sort of reiterated all of those best practices once people's hair was no longer on fire and they adjusted to working from home, but just kind of resetting and say, all right, let's let's regroup, because the number of bad actors, anytime there's anything, so it could be normal tax season and you're waiting on your tax refund, they will exploit that because, hey, the IRS gave me a link and I can automatically get it deposited early. By the way, the IRS is never going to give you a tax refund early, but you'll get a message that says it does. And the pandemic just opened up the box of, hey, here's the latest update on COVID, or free masks, or whatever it is. They will exploit that to try to get you to click on something. And educating your team on what to look for, and how to find something, or to notice that that link is not legit. It might look like it goes to Amazon, but it actually goes somewhere else. So those are the things that we've been doing.
So during the pandemic, your staff also was working virtually,
Mhm.
or were they in one place together?
Yeah, we all went home kind of the same time everybody else did,
Okay,
and early on, and we still are, and we're back then. We're an essential business because we're part of the infrastructure support, so we couldn't turn the service off. We
sure.
didn't want to turn it off anyway, but we had to be available. And we're based out of Kansas City, so we're used to ice storms, so we had that in place, and we would use it for a day or two, historically, but this was long term.
Right.
So we shuffled some stuff around, because long term is way different, and this is what we help some of our customers with as well. If you're just taking a laptop to work from home for a couple of days, no big deal. But if you're used to having three giant monitors sitting at your desk and that's how you're the most productive, eventually you got to try to recreate that at home. And that's what we've helped some of our customers with, whether it was acquiring new equipment for their folks at home, or uh, walking them through taking their stuff from their office, getting it home, and then trying to walk somebody through, this is the cord that plugs into this. But we had to do a lot of that,
Wow.
just so that people were productive in their home office as much as they could be similar to what they had in their office. But yeah, we had to do that ourselves.
So so what's wonderful about that is you have the same lessons as
Oh yeah.
everybody else. So what did you learn about team management as you moved into that process?
the the way you communicate is different now, and we do a lot of this screen to screen. We happen to use Microsoft Teams. That's also the primary platform we have across our customers, so we got a lot better at walking people through using those tools, and we use them internally. So that regular chat, regular check-in, you can't just walk by someone's desk or office and knock on the door and poke your head in. So what does that look like in the digital world when everybody is now remote, and setting up that cadence? So we still have regular staff meetings. We have stand-up huddles in the morning for different departments. We've got an all staff meeting every Wednesday, but just again, making sure that we are continually communicating, and staying connected. Because I mean, it's an issue. A lot of our staff are single, so they're at home. They got a lot of pets, but it can be lonely when you're just kind of hanging out by yourself. And depending on where you are in the country and what level of lockdown you're under, it can be very isolating. So being aware of that, reaching out, trying to make sure people stay connected and feel connected is has been one of the things we focused on.
Okay, so John, that's an extra piece of responsibility, a new hat that you put on your head.
Yeah.
The bobble, the bobble
Yep.
doll, right? You become more and more of that as you add roles and responsibilities.
Yeah.
So your time demands were much more significant because there was much
Yeah.
more to manage. And so for you to do that and still stay on top of things, what were some of the things that you needed to think through for yourself as the CEO of the company to be able to have sufficient communication and support the team in the way that they need it while also being able to stay on top of the work?
The the thing that made everything work, because I mean, and my team will tell you, I can't actually do any of the technical work at all, like not a bit. I know what we can do. I don't know how to do most of it. Uh, and same thing with a lot of the internal tools. So what has been fantastic is we've got a great management team. So having regular daily huddles with my management team and empowering them to do the things they needed to do in each of their departments was huge in terms of staying on top and kind of the divide and conquer of the million and one things that had to get done to keep everything up and running. Um, yeah, I mean, there's no way I could have handled the volume of that, like not at all. And there's some of it that I don't even know how to do. So the fact that there's a good communication line at the management layer, and clear objectives on this is what we're trying to accomplish today, this week, this and early on this minute in the next couple of hours, was critical to getting that rolled out, and just spreading that workload around the team so that, once we got through the chaos, we could get back focused on, how do we help more people, how do we get resources out there, how do we make this better for everybody we touch.
So what's next for you and your company?
Continuing to grow, continuing to help small business, and it's one of the things I say every Wednesday in our staff meeting. We are a service company that happens to deal with technology. That's one of the things that's made us successful is we focus on the person sitting behind the keyboard as opposed to the keyboard, because it's actually pretty easy to make the technical stuff work. I mean, there are issues and things that go wrong, but making interacting with the individuals using the technology, removing the mystery that's there, and making it easy to use the technology that they own, that's a lot harder than just making the technology work. So staying focused on that service side of things, continuing to grow and help more people, that's kind of what's next. We want to find more businesses that we can support. I'm biased. I think we're just awesome at doing that. And when we do our job well, that company is going to do a better job in their community. They're going to be able to continue to provide jobs. And each of those individuals, and now more than ever, when we have a positive impact on that person who is calling in needing support, they're going to have a better day. They're going to be more productive. They're going to be in a better mood. And since they're working at home, they're going to be a better mood in their house. It's going to
Right.
have a positive impact on them and their family. So again, it's the personal impact that we have and the ability to positively impact the entire community is what we are focused on and where I'd like to see us continue to grow.
So our time is almost up, Jon. Things we have not talked about or that we have only superficially talked about that you would like to speak further about for people who are listening.
A couple of quick things. We put some free resources out early on in the pandemic. A lot of them still apply. So there's a link to them on our blog at purpleguys.com. We actually pinned the link to the top of our blog, so it's really easy to find. So if you just go to purpleguys.com, and I think it just says blog, click on the blog. Those resources are there. And most of them actually are still free because a lot of the companies that were providing them are still providing them for free, and helping to support small business. And then also we wrote a book on how to select an IT service provider. Now, again, we wrote the book, so we do fit the criteria for picking one. But no matter what market you're in and whether or not you're in a market that we support, it's a great resource, and it's available on Amazon. It's how to select an IT service provider. It's a very, very descriptive name of the book, and you can also get to it. I'm pretty sure there's a link on our website for that. Because I mean, ultimately, technology is a huge requirement now in terms of staying connected, and small businesses need good quality resources. When something's not working, who do they call for help? They need a decent response time. They need somebody that's going to be responsible, and they're not going to fix one thing and break two other things while they're trying to fix it. So if there's anything we can do to help, again, our focus is to try to empower small business, because I firmly believe that is the engine that runs this country, and the entrepreneurial spirit to start and grow new things. That's where the jobs come from. So anything we can do to help, happy to be a resource.
Super. So for our audience, we will have the link to your website in the show notes so they can connect with you and get that information. And before we conclude, though, I want to know, where did you get the name Purple Guys?
So the story of Purple Guys. I mentioned I was a serial entrepreneur. The company I had before this, we happened to have a purple logo. Had nothing to do with the business. It was just the logo was purple. My only good marketing idea I've ever had that was purely mine was holding up a purple pen here. It's a purple pen that writes in purple ink. When I started this business, I knew I wanted a purple logo because I wanted to still have a purple pen. So the name of the company was not Purple Guys, but we had purple as our logo color. And 20 years ago, this business, you had to do all the stuff that we do on site. The remote support, it really didn't even exist. So we were regularly going on site inside the walls of our customers. And it was actually my wife's idea, because we had logoed apparel that we bought for everybody, but it was all different colors. And she's like, we need a team uniform. Just pick a color. And so, all right, well, it was pretty easy. I picked the corporate color. We started showing up wearing purple shirts, and our customers, independent of each other, started saying, hey, the Purple Guys are here. And I am slow, but I'm not that slow. We became the Purple Guys, and it has been a fantastic brand, because we have the and this is back to the branding, and part of the reason that we grew is it's really easy to refer our business and have people remember it. So you want to be memorable, you want to be top of mind. And when people had frustrations, and there was a lot of frustration in the first quarter, second quarter of this year, you just want a chance to talk to them and see if you're a good fit. So that is the history of the Purple Guys name. Our customers named us, and it's also part of why we keep growing, is we're really easy to remember and refer.
I love that story. I love it. And you're right,
Yeah.
it is memorable. So, Jon, thank you so much for being with us today on our Building My Legacy podcast. And for those of you who are listening, please visit our website at buildtomorrow.com and also our social media, same buildtomorrow.com. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Appreciate being on.
Thank you for watching my video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell button above. Leave comments. We'd love to hear what you think. And visit our other social media links as well. Thanks much.